So I told a horror story the other day at Seam, and this is back in 2018. A lot of people really got mad at one individual who personally I'm not upset. But a lot of people, they got real grumpy about it, which, you know, it's the truth. I don't know what to tell you. So I was thinking about some other commentary horror stories I had. It was like a flashback. It hit me at once. Now, I've told bits and pieces of this story before, but boy, it really all comes together in such a nasty way. At E3 in 2017, they held a big event here. It was a large, like, fighting game event that was going on at LA Live. It's this big fucking thing. It's just in the middle of LA, and I'm hired to go do this event at LA Live. And there's Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat, right? So they have players out to do invitationals, and everybody's like pretty hyped. So I'm like, cool, this event, it's not the best paying gig on the planet, but the money's okay, the hours aren't so bad, and I can go visit E3 after because I get a free E3 badge. I'll do a little work, and then I'll boogie on over to E3 each day. It shouldn't be a problem. We show up, we're hanging out, and I'm out there with Steve, and it's really fucking bright outside. It's unbelievably hot. And I roll up, and I see a person standing there who I didn't know was working the event, and I was like, oh, hey, it's Rob. It's a pleasure to see him. Rob, if you guys don't know, is an esports photographer. This is Tampa's Rob. I see him, and he's got boom, boom, double holstered his cameras, and he's like, and he's like, you know, getting ready. And Rob's like, dude, I'm so excited for this event. In most esports event, the lighting is dog shit, but this is outside. So like, it's beautiful. Like the lighting is perfect. Like, you know, I'm really excited about this. So he's really hyped, right? I look around and the stage is so pretty. It's this massive stage, like T-Mobile sponsoring it. You know, it's so pretty. I go backstage, I meet production. I'm like, what's up? How's it going? Like, where are we commentating? Production has got like a nice overhang, right? It's like back, you know, there's tons of shade back there. I'm like, okay, where are we commentating? Is there like a desk, a table out there? And they go, oh, they thought it would be cool if you guys were like in front of everybody when commentating. And I was like, oh, are we on the stage? And they're like, no. You guys are over there. And they point. And at the center of LA Live, there is a tower built, probably 10 to 15 feet off the ground, directly in the sun with no like overhang coverage. And I'm like, hey, we're commentating there, like in that tower, like fucking Rapunzel. And they're like, yeah, that's you guys. We figured since you guys are right next to the street, right? People will walk by in the street, see you guys, and think, oh, I should go check out that event. And I was like, what's happening? Is there like an overhead shade thing? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you know, my first block is like 4 hours or 6 hours, right? I'm like, I'm going to be in the sun for like 6 hours straight. Is that what you're telling me? And they're like, yeah. I don't know if you've looked at me, right? I'm like, do you guys have sunscreen? Like, dude, I don't even know what I'm going to do. And out of the woodwork, an individual says, well, I always have handy dandy heavy duty sunscreen because I need it for my head. And I showed up prepared because this shoot was outside and I knew I would be outside. I can't believe you guys are going to be in the fucking sun all day. That's hilarious. And I was like, thank God for Rob. He's the reason I'm alive today. He showed up with SPF, whatever the strongest one was. SPF far slash. Brother, I was far slashing with the best of them. I lathered up. I'm getting ready for commentary and my beard has just got sunscreen in it and shit. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fucked up. Like a 4 hour or 6 hour shift. I'm like, guys, straight up, we can't do this the whole time. Like, you guys gotta find some cover for us or something. And production says, we'll have something for you tomorrow. Today, it's just, it is what it is. We don't know what to tell you. We thought you being in the sun for 6 hours straight and dying would be perfectly acceptable. And I'm like, all right, here we go. So Steve and I, we walk over and we get into our ivory tower. We start commentating. Now, there is a few issues with hosting an event outside. It's not enough that we're in the sun, right? And we're roasting. There is so much glare on the monitors that we cannot look at them. So we spent the entirety of the broadcast standing in the sun because we couldn't see our monitors. So we would sit there and stare at the camera, and the minute it cut to the game, we would stand up, turn around, and stare at the big screen. So we have to get up and stand, and then production then would have to say, guys, sit down. Guys, come on, you got to sit down. We're going to be on camera. Guys, sit down. So we would turn around, sit down. Welcome back, everybody. You know, it's a pleasure being here at the T-Mobile Arena out here in beautiful LA Live. Hopefully you've been enjoying the event so far. And we would have to do that every time it would cut back to us. The second thing is the players' monitors. also have a lot of glare. And the players would like run to the stage to try to get 1p or 2p depending on where the sun was. You can already start to see why this is a big problem. So I'm in the sun. I'm dying. It's over 100 degrees in LA in the middle of the summer. I'm pounding water. It's not even working. I'm feeling pretty dehydrated, but I'm chugging water. And as I'm drinking water and stuff, I gotta go to the bathroom. We're like 2.5 hours in, and I've been holding it for like an hour and a half. We have a talkback button, right? And for the last hour, I've been hitting the talkback button and saying, hello. Hey, are you guys there? Hello? And the talkback button lets us talk to production without the stream chat hearing us, right? They finally answer after like an hour of me hitting the talkback button. They're like, yo, what up? And I'm like, oh my God, the button works. I thought the button didn't work because I had been asking for an hour. I'm like, hey, yo, I have to go to the bathroom. When is our next break? And they say, I'm not kidding. Oh, part of our broadcast promise is that this is a no break program. That was part of the sales pitch. So this is a no break product. And I hit the button and say, I am in the sun drinking water. I'm going to piss. You find a break. I'm leaving. And they're like, no, it's a no break. And I'm like, when the next match starts, Steve will be alone. Don't come back. Where's the nearest bathroom? Is there a bathroom back there? And then they say, the Starbucks. And I'm like, and I'm looking around. I'm like, where the fuck is the Starbucks? So the match starts. And I jump out of the tower like it's a fucking action movie. And I sprint as fast as possible. I burst in. I go into the bathroom. I pee. I look at myself in the mirror. I am already sunburned. I run back up to the tower. I am sweating. I'm drenched. And I'm reapplying sunblock because I know I'm already burnt. And that went on. And I ran to the bathroom many times in that block because it was a no break program. I think Steve had to do the same thing. He had to sprint off and, you know, he was also melting. I mean, you could hear us in our commentary. Our brains were fried. Like, we can't commentate in the sun. By the end, we can hardly even talk, right? We're so tired. So we wrap up day one. I go back and I'm like, guys, there has to be a cover for day two. Like, I will not come back. And production's like, we totally understand. Tomorrow there'll be a cover, right? Like, I got you. You know, I'm so tired at this point, right? Like, the whole point of this was so that I could go to E3 after, right? This is a good year for fighting games at E3. That's very rare. This is the year they announced Dragon Ball FighterZ and Marvel Infinite. Steve's like, you know, tomorrow, I have us like a slot saved. We can go play some Dragon Ball, right? I was like, hell yeah. The people at B&E were like, yeah, we'll get you and Steve in. You guys can play Dragon Ball. But like that day, we're too tired, right? Like, we can't do it. Day two, we come back and I'm ready to see the cover. And as I show up, they are installing the cover. What the cover is it's a mesh top. If the sun was at 100% intensity the day before, it is at 99.9 intensity now. And I'm staring at it like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This cannot be the solution. And the production guy walks up and says, not only did we do you a solid, get that cover product up there, but we got you something to help you with the sun. And he hands us these. Steve and I get sun hats. If you look over on the left side right here on Steve's hat, those are turtles. He walked to the nearest convenience store or like, you know, Walgreens or wherever, and it was like, I will take 2 sun hats. So he hands us these sun hats and it's like, the sun is defeated. You look like a regular old Melty Blood character. The sun can no longer bother you. This is what they did. So we did day 2. And as we're finishing the second day, I'm just dead. The sun is sapped from me all of my life. We go to finish our shift and we're like, oh, thank God. Now it's Tekken's turn, right? The sun is beginning to set. And I'm walking off and I'm telling Steve, man, these fucking sun hats, am I right? I can't believe they gave us these sun hats. And the production guy walks up and says, the hats stay. We didn't buy multiple sets of hats. You now give your turtle hats back to the next team and they will wear the sun hats for the next thing. And Steve and I were so hurt. We really grew fond of these turtle sun hats. And they were, I'm telling you, there was a lot of sweat in these hats. So I think it was like Ricksta and Rip got the sun hats next, and they did Tekken. Where was the production sitting? In the shade with catering. as God intended. I know. Yeah, I know. So you go and play Marvel, and we go play Dragon Ball, and Steve and I have a good time. We play it, we enjoy it, right? It's cool. And then the next day, I check out of my hotel because it's time for me to fly directly from E3, where I am now sunburnt and have no energy left in my body, to CEO, to do CEO for the weekend. And the only thing I have to do before I go is a Born Free interview from E3 2017. It's right here. I went and did the Born Free interview. So I went to E3. I brought my luggage into the back of Capcom's booth. And it's an hour and 11-minute video. You know, he said I'll make it a short one. And, you know, my flight's at like 3 o'clock and our interview is at like 11 or something, or like maybe 12. And I'm like, okay, well, no problems. Now I will roll over to the airport and I'm going to fly to CEO. This is not an issue. I have like 3 hours to get from the convention center to the airport. So I go to call an Uber, and this Uber is not showing up. I waited a solid hour. I had to walk all the way back somewhere with my luggage until I found a location that I could quickly get an Uber, which was after like an hour of waiting or something. So I'm in the car and I'm going, and I'm headed to the airport. And as I'm heading to the airport, I'm like, I am fine. I have lots of time. And then we are getting closer and we're getting closer, and I'm like, man, this is a little close. But the good news is, as long as you're checked in for the flight, right, it doesn't really matter. You have to check in like an hour beforehand or whatever. And I don't have luggage to check, so I'll make it, right? I open up the app and I'm like, let me check in to my flight. And I was flying Delta, which is like, it's like the first time I'd ever flown Delta. So I go to check in on the app and it errors me out. I have like 40 minutes to check into this flight, or it's not gonna let me on, right? So I'm like trying to check in on the website, it's not working. I call them and I'm in the Uber and I wait like 25 minutes or something to get through their talk thing to get to the guy. And I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm about to be at the airport and I just need you to check me in for my flight. And they're like, what's the problem? And I'm like, I'm at the airport. I just need you to check me in for my flight. Okay, I can't check in online for some reason, but if you check me in, I'll make my flight. And if you can't help me, I'm gonna miss it. I don't have carry-ons or anything. I'll be okay. And then he's like, okay, do you have any carry-ons? And I'm like, don't have any carry-ons. I just need you to check me in. And he's like, okay, what's your number? So I tell him my number and like what my flight is, right? I'm like, yep, no problem, tell him. And then he says, oh, wait, have you tried checking in online on our app? And I said, yes, I tried checking in on your app. It didn't work. And he said, you can use the app to check yourself in. And he hung up the phone. He hung up the phone. And I was like, hello? And I tried again. I was like, dude, what the fuck? So I'm trying to log in on the app. I'm like, dude, I gotta get in. I'm like, come on, man. What's happening here? It's not working. I can't make it in. I gotta call them back. I call them and they're like, you are customer 8763. You have 45 minutes until the next person's gonna be there. And I'm gonna be at the airport in 20. So I'm like, dude, fuck, man. What am I gonna do? I can't check in. I'm gonna make it to the airport in 20 minutes. I have to check in within 15. If I was at the airport 5 minutes earlier, I could check in. It's no problem. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so angry. Check me in. Check me in. That's all you gotta do. And personally, I like never miss flights. And I won't miss the flight if someone will check me in. Check me in. So I show up to the airport, I walk up to the gate, I'm like, hey, I'm for the flight. And the guy's like, oh, did you check in online? I'm like, don't get me started. I was like, I called and the guy hung up on me and he goes, let me look. Well, you missed the check-in window. Do you have a carry-on bag? I'm like, I do not have a carry-on bag. They're like, your flight was at 3 o'clock. The best I can do is the next flight at 9 p.m. I'm sitting at LAX at 3 p.m., beaten down by the sun, missing my flight by 5 minutes. I've got 6 hours until the next flight. And I'm sitting there like, do I go back to E3? I was like, I can't do this. My brain hurts. I'm sunburnt. I'm pissed off. I'm just like, all right. I don't know what else to do. You'll never guess. I have like an 8 a.m. commentary block the next day, and now I'm not landing until like the middle of the night. So I sat and I posted up in the airport for 6 hours. As I was sitting there waiting, all the MK players showed up, sunburnt and tired. And I was like, hey, you guys just did the thing that I did. And they're like, yeah, I couldn't see. And I was like, glare on the monitor. Yeah, I know, same thing for me. And they were like, well, I guess we're heading to CEO. Are you on? I'm like, the 9 o'clock to flight. They're like, yeah, the 9 o'clock. Yeah, me too. All right, well, I guess we're chilling. So we sat there and we waited, all of us sunburned and sad, to head on over to CEO in Orlando, Florida. And I went and I commentated CEO. Imagine if it was Daytona that year, I would have went home. I would have called Seglia and been like, hey, what's up, guys? Gina here. I'm a little tired. I can't make my flight. Boom, put Sajam in. I would have hung up the phone. The thing is, I try to be very kind to anybody working any position where they have to deal with people. So when I called in, I'm extra sweet. I'm like, hey, you know, this is the situation. Like, this is what I'm looking for. Easy peasy. Am I right, fellas? Like, I try to be nice. And this person just fucking hung up on me and I wanted to kill him. You can check in on the app, though. I've been told. It has been foretold that such a thing is possible. I tried. The Delta app just didn't work for Omri.
Man, seems like those specials apples would really come in handy in this story.
I would have eaten a Granny Smith on the spot if you handed me one. No fucking problem. Yeah, we landed at like an ungodly time, and I had commentary the next day. And Hanzo is right. That is the year where it was in Orlando, and I think the AC broke or something. And so, like, the Tekken room was like 89 degrees or something. It was really fucked up. But, you know, it's just sort of the nature of the beast, right? When I used to do E-League, you know, the show would finish at midnight. And then we would like go back to the room, crash at 1, wake up at like 5 or 6, fly to an event that day. I had a lot of shifts like that where during E-League and other events, like I would do 2 events in a weekend and I would fly out and I'd be super dead.
Listen.
You know how Hanzo felt when he walked by at E3 and saw me melting in the sun and just laughed? That's how I felt walking up during that Canada Cup and hearing we have a hard out at 4 o'clock. That's how I felt. Like, damn. Cheers. And I went I just doop-a-doo like a fucking Muppet. I walked the opposite way. I was just gone. I was like, well, this is not my problem at all. That shit was tight. You know how nice it was?